It's the Waiting for Next Year.com podcast. Second podcast in 2 nights. This is kind of fun. I think it's Harv's third appearance on the podcast.
Number 3, lucky number 3.
First ever in person.
Right. Thank you, Patreon, for flying us down to beautiful Bristol, Connecticut. Here we are in the Lindell Studios.
Yeah, what's really funny is that meeting you puts you ahead of some other WFNY writers who I've never met in person yet. So
really?
I got that going for me. I haven't met any of the new EHC guys other than Namina. So,
well,
here we are.
Here we are. We got beer. We're good.
Yeah, if you have them in person, you can liquor them up.
You
get more out of them.
Cheers.
More salacious, hot sports takes.
I'm ready. Smoking hot.
So the first thing that I wanted to bring up is something that I couldn't get any information out of my last night's guest because apparently he just didn't interface with this news story at all. But the passing of David Modell and the reaction of Cleveland Browns fans online. I'm old enough that I know people who told stories about David Modell and his time here in Cleveland, and so I have kind of a visceral reaction to he and his father, and I mostly kept my mouth shut on his passing because that's neither the time or place necessarily. But, now that we're no longer reveling in his passing, did you have any feeling about David Modell or the passing of David Modell? I
didn't have any good memories of him. Even when Modell was here, people here didn't hate Modell generally. I mean, they hated him when the team left, but he was fairly beloved, even though it's kind of forgotten now. But
even Paul Brown, he retained support through that.
Yeah. But David was the guy that stuck the cigar in Felix Wright's face. David was the big for his britches kid who really was incompetent but was hanging around and stuff like that. Nobody liked him. He didn't seem to have a good reputation. I mean, in those days, most of the reputation, I think, came through the plain dealer writers and that kind of thing. But I don't know. I saw him like everybody else on Believeland. He came across as kind of a pompous jerk, the get over it guy.
That certainly wasn't a very good send-off for he and his family.
No.
In Cleveland. And it couldn't have been any... I always wondered how that statement might have played in other cities.
Probably better. But,
yeah.
If we dare to think of it this way.
And he said, and by the way, for those who said, the team didn't actually move, they changed the name and the colors, just kept the history, it was basically on pause or something.
Yeah, it was on pause for 4 to 5 years, and you got your team back, so get over it.
And a new stadium.
You got a new stadium, so get over it.
That lovely palace on the shores of Lake Erie that we received.
Right. I don't know. If you think of it a different way, it wasn't his fault that he was adopted by Art Modell.
No.
He was given the job. He probably took it because, he probably wasn't doing much about it.
Who wouldn't take the job?
Who wouldn't take the job? And you're his kid, and you're spoiled, and you're kind of Cleveland royalty. So he is what he is. So, I mean, is he worthy of our ire? I don't know. He didn't draft anybody stupid. He didn't draft Mike Junkin. Whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And now the real question is it all over? Now that he's kind of the wicked witch, the last wicked witch.
Oh no, it's not over till we say it's over.
Right.
I don't know. The more I think about it, the more I think the Ravens are our team. I mean, what is this team that's here?
No, and the thing that gets me most riled up, though, the only thing that gets me riled up are Ravens fans who would dare to even bother weigh in on it when they're the ones. They would say every bad thing in the book. They won't even put the Colts' name on the scoreboard.
Right.
They despise Irsay.
Right.
And the entire family.
Exactly. Anyways, that's enough about David.
All right. Enough about Dave Modell. It's interesting because in the same week where, the Browns media was under fire kind of for asking questions. I don't even know why. People just seem to hate Browns media. But and then the Modell story crops up, and that's kind of pretty famously where Tony Grossi has maybe shined the most in his career in terms of keeping Modell out of the Hall of Fame. And he had it's probably similar to an article he's written before, but when he wrote about the passing of David Modell, and again, he captures that specific topic as well as anybody in town. and so the same guy who's despised 51 weeks out of the year has that one moment to shine. I just don't understand. Would people hate Cleveland Browns media if the team was good?
Do you think they hate the media? I mean, I heard, I think maybe it was a pod or a article that you wrote about the kind of hatred. No, it was your owners' meeting you guys were talking about on the podcast. I think the short answer is probably not. I just think it's a different era we're in now, where a sports writer it has to be interactive, and they're going to take crap. The
engagement.
The companies are forcing them to engage on Twitter. And what is Twitter? I mean, you're just going to get blindsided. It's going to be buckshot all over you whenever you open your mouth, and
it's not real life.
It's not real life, and it used to be that a guy like Grossi himself used to write something, and if someone didn't like it, if it was stupid, if it was angry, if it was petulant, someone would write a letter on paper and send it to the plain dealer. And Grossi would never see it. I doubt he would see it. Some assistant would open it, and if it was complimentary, would hand it over to him, or if it wasn't, would dump it. But now he has these anonymous people firing at him all the time. I mean,
and he's the king of the block party. He blocks everybody.
Right. But he's snippy, and he has his own. So you're going to get it. You're going to get it as good as you give it. So
now, if he still worked at the plain dealer, they'd collect those letters and they'd put them up one by one and have a contest to see who had the best Tony Grossi hate letter.
Right.
So then there would be somebody summarizing the contest, so they get even more clicks off of it.
Right. What do you think about it? I mean, do you think it's because the Browns are so awful?
Yeah, I think some fans, there are legitimately some fans who are delusional enough to think that the media contributes to the team failing. Like, they think Derek Anderson failing is partially the media's fault.
Right. I get that. I kind of think of the attitude toward him as, the bad commercials that they have through the local commercials with the jingles that drive you nuts.
Like Buddy's Carpet.
Whatever it is.
I don't care about making money.
If the Indians are... when the Indians are doing well and they go to break and they play the obnoxious commercial, it's okay with me if someone just homered. We just came, it's kind of like, it's almost comforting to me.
When the Indians are only winning 30% of the games, I despise the Ganley man.
You're right. I want to smash the Ganley man. I hate him. So it's kind of, I see the association. That's how I am with those jingles. It just makes me freaking nuts.
That's perfect. That's perfect, because I never really thought of it like that, but you're right. Like, the Ganley man is so much more palatable when the Indians are winning 7-2.
Right. It's okay. It's a traditional commercial. I like it. It's like Chief Wahoo.
That nostalgic.
It's good.
Man.
It's good. So,
I didn't know we were going to invoke the Chief Wahoo conversation.
No, I don't want to.
I don't want to either.
I have strong feelings, but I don't.
What are your strong feelings?
I just think it's a racist symbol, and I don't know how you could sugarcoat that. I don't really want to hear about people saying it's tradition. It doesn't. There's a lot of things that are tradition.
Yeah.
The Confederate flag was supposedly wasn't really, but it was supposedly tradition. So you have to. No, it's hateful and it causes pain. And why did they do it to begin with? In what era?
Well, I think it's like a semantical debate, but I don't like to use the word racist. I like to just call it antiquated, because it's like your racist old grandpa. Is he really racist, or is he just kind of like old and ignorant?
He's not a racist. He comes from a racist era.
Yeah, exactly. And so, whether we're splitting hairs, I think one gives people room to say, all right, maybe it is time for it to go, and the other one makes people dig in because you kind of make them feel like criminals.
The people I know who dig in are not older; they're younger.
No, but it's not about that. It's like it's a traditional kind of a thing, and if you attack it like that and paint them into that corner, right, wrong, or indifferent, I don't think you're giving them room to come to your side of the argument.
I see. So you want to convert them?
I do want to convert them, and I think that's the better way, because rarely do you attack somebody into coming to your side.
I agree, and it's probably the wrong era right now to tell someone you're causing pain. So you just need to think about that. You're causing. We're just in the wrong era for that.
But I also think it's debatable how much pain and to whom it's actually causing. I just think that it doesn't matter. I think there are a lot of like politically correct butthurt people, and they've jumped on a bandwagon, and I think it's time for it to change. I don't think that's a reason not to change it. I still think that's the right thing to do. But some of the people who are proponents of changing it, I don't like some of those people. And I don't like the way some of those people argue.
Because they're insufferable.
And I don't like the way some of those people argue.
Right.
So,
right.
Like, I'm not enough against them to dig in, but I can see why people dig in sometimes just to like... You try and tell me who are you?
No, I got it.
But
I just don't want to go any further down this path.
No, but these are the kinds of conversations that are important, because I think in essence you and I agree. It's on the shades on the outside,
right? And you're right. It has to be a Native American who tells me they're offended. It does. That's the crucial part there.
And I've seen Native Americans who were offended, so it's in the bank. I got it.
And then I see people who want to keep the symbol say that there's studies that say that most Native American. I just
you can't poll your way out of it,
right.
or science your way out of
right.
it.
Sometimes if there's a physical caricature of a group, then it's not that hard to understand. It's just not. It's with exaggerated features.
No, and the world did change around Chief Wahoo. It did.
Right.
And I'd like to think that it's a better one. And so let's not hold on to the worst.
Right. And of course, Chief Wahoo himself changed. The image itself changed as the society changed. So, anyways.
We're destroying all the Indians' merch right after they have their biggest year.
Right.
You know?
Right.
It's interesting, though, because they did have the biggest year that we can remember, since Mark Shapiro took over the team and then left.
Most fun year since, what, 97?
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't find 2007 nearly as fun. This was just I still have warm fuzzies about it. I mean, 2 months later, I still that 47 minutes or whatever it was from the time Rajai Davis hit that home run until they lost the lead. Those were a really good 47 minutes.
Oh, and I celebrated a couple of wins at that Cleveland bar in Chicago.
Wow.
During the World Series. So because I just happened to be there for my 10th anniversary, and that was just a trip. It's gotten. I was not upset. I mean, I was upset, but I wasn't like bitter upset. I went quickly to enjoy the World Series right after it happened. Uh-huh. But the further we get from it, the more, like I was in Florida after Christmas, and there are a lot of new Cubs fans wearing Cubs gear all over the world. On my morning jogs, there are a couple of houses of people who apparently used to live in Chicago still flying the W. And it's like, I understand flying the W for, a year, maybe 2, maybe 3, unless you live here. And then you're just being kind of dickish.
I don't know.
So it's starting to bother me more, actually, the further we get.
Right.
That they were so close and lost.
Right. It would have been so sweet if the Indians had pulled that out. That would have been the most amazing year ever.
The most incredible ever.
Ever in Cleveland sports. That would have been
maybe in American sports history.
It would have been just almost incomprehensible, and we would have been insufferable. We would have been those Chicago fans.
Yeah.
You were at Game 7. Right?
I was. Scott and I went.
I was downtown working that day, and about 3:00 that day, I just wanted to get out of the office and kind of get a feel for what was going on. And I knew walking up Euclid and then down 4th Street, there was just too many Chicago. There was just too much Chicago paraphernalia. And on the one hand, I thought, okay, all these people are in town. They must be out having lunch or something. And then it just didn't. But it didn't look right. No, it did not. I mean, I just thought, oh no, this is.
And it was the perfect storm of history.
It was. That's still. Everybody's discussed this ad nauseum, but that still bothers me. It still bothers me when I see Rajai Davis's, the highlight of him running around the bases, and only 75% of the fans have their arms in the air. And
was it 75%?
Well, whatever it is, it's just like, how can that happen?
I would pay.
I know how it can happen.
I would pay to see like a forensic study of the photograph to see if somebody could estimate exactly, because I think it was maybe 50-50.
Right.
It felt like Indians fans were outnumbered. I've seen the Indians play in Fenway. I felt, and that granted that was a regular season game, but I felt better in Fenway than I did in my own park during the World Series Game 7. It was brutal.
Yeah. But the series itself was beautiful.
It was.
I mean, it was fine baseball, and they never should have. I don't think they should have been there. They lost half of their rotation, the strength of the team, and they made it up as they went along.
The fact that they won the Trevor Bauer drone injury game is so ridiculous.
All of that stuff. The fact that they bring in Geyer and he's getting all these clutch hits. I mean, so much stuff happened.
Well, there are a couple waiting for next year guys who are still really bitter that the last out of the World Series went to Michael Martinez.
I know. I've been listening to Jim Pete and
Mike Hattery.
I think they're great.
I love their positional previews because they dive deeper than I feel like it. But I want to hear it. I want to know it. But it's so great.
But it's just funny that they're so obsessed about this guy. I mean, I always try to remind myself when I say, "Oh, this guy sucks. That guy sucks." If you played against Michael Martinez in a softball game, you just go, "Whoa."
You'd marvel.
Like really, and we just like, he sucks.
And it brings me back to like the earliest days of waiting for next year when TD and I would constantly talk about Casey Blake, and I'd be like, you don't blame Casey Blake for being Casey Blake. You blame the guy who couldn't replace him. That kind of a thing.
Yeah.
You don't blame Michael Martinez, and I don't think Hattery and Jim Pete are blaming Michael Martinez. I think they're saying, Chris Antonetti, if you can't find anybody better than that to have on the roster, that says a lot about you.
People would love to have what Antonetti did this year, and nobody's talking about the actual general manager, Chernoff. I mean, this is a young guy. He must be doing a.
Nobody ever talked about Antonetti when Mark Shapiro was still here.
Right. Even when Shapiro was president, when Shapiro moved to the presidency.
What's really funny is I always gave Antonetti the credit for the moves I liked, like the Ubaldo trade and whatever else. And then anytime I didn't like something, I blamed Shapiro. Yeah. Because, I'm sorry, but Nick Swisher has Shapiro's name all over it.
Yeah.
And that's the funniest thing in the world because you know who wanted Nick Swisher more than anybody? Me. Because I thought they could get him for like $10 million. I thought he'd be like a really good bargain. I didn't think of him as like a centerpiece of the lineup. All of a sudden they're paying him like $16 million or whatever they did.
You knew they needed somebody. Yeah. And the Dolans knew they needed somebody.
And I thought it was a perfect Dolan signing because there wouldn't be a bidding war.
Right, and they got the cable TV money that year, and they had money to spend, and Bourne that looked like that looked like a really good deal.
You can never blame them for the Bourne deal. It should have worked.
Right, and then he stopped running.
Yeah.
He totally stopped. He went from all those stolen bases every year, and he just stopped running. And then, after year 1 or year 2, he said, I'm working out with a track guy in Houston, whatever he did. I'm going to run. Never ran again. It's whatever. But not this guy, E.E.
Oh. Edwin Encarnacion.
I'm so excited about that.
Can you place that signing in the history of the Cleveland Indians and any other signing they've ever done? Because I had a lot of trouble trying to think of anything.
The biggest signings I could remember was when I was a little kid, Wayne Garland.
Okay.
10
I don't remember Garland.
Garland was a 1-year phenom for Baltimore, and that was their big signing. $3 million over 10 years, and people were screaming, $3 million contract, and he immediately blew his arm out and was never the same guy. He actually never had a good game for the Indians that I could remember. He won
a 10-year, $2.3 million contract.
Sorry, I exaggerated.
No, it's great. I just wanted to be historically accurate. Thanks, Wikipedia.
But people were going crazy. How could you pay someone that amount? And it wasn't his fault. He blew his arm out immediately, and he was horrible.
A torn rotator cuff. Your memory's good.
Yeah. Well, this is my childhood, so you don't forget stuff like that, because I was so excited. Roberto Alomar, big signing.
That was a big signing.
And he was in his prime. And, I mean, he was the best second baseman in baseball, and he played like it when he was here.
The only thing that I can say about that renders it a little bit different is that was before the great East Coast arms race boosted, Major League Baseball bidding wars and salaries into the stratosphere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because the Indians, once that happened, and the Yankees and Red Sox started bidding up the universe,
that's right.
And then Texas followed, and it changed the whole game.
Right. You know, they didn't sign, they didn't trade for Pedro Martinez. Everybody erroneously says, "Oh, they could have." They didn't want to give up Jared Wright. The truth of the matter, as I recall, was that Hart knew he wasn't going to sign Pedro to an extension, and Boston signed him for like a $70 million extension.
Yeah.
And so they weren't going to give up a phenom like Jared Wright for a guy that they knew they weren't going to be able to sign, and that was the reality there. But other than Alomar,
and Pedro Martinez earned every dollar he ever earned.
Absolutely, even when he was. Even he would get hurt a lot. He'd be on the but when he came back, he'd win another Cy Young. He was like, who was it? Brett Saberhagen for Kansas City would like win the Cy Young or be in the contention every other year, and then the intervening years he'd be hurt. I mean, these guys.
All due respect to Kluber, Pedro Martinez is the greatest pitcher I ever saw live.
Amazing.
And because I lived in Boston when he was there, and so I got to see him pitch against like the Devil Rays, but when they were still the Devil Rays.
Yeah, he was dominating.
I saw one of his greatest performances as a Red Sox player when he mowed down 13, 14, 18. You could tell me he did 24 Devil Rays, I'd believe you. It was just the most unbelievable game I've ever seen anybody pitch. And even I, the most staunch Cleveland fan in the world, I was, standing up with every strikeout that day. It was just unbelievable.
Right.
Never seen anything like it.
Right. But other than Alomar and Wayne Garland, just like saying that name, I mean, I can't think of anybody.
No, I think that's about it, because all the other big contracts were guys that they already had,
Yeah. So really this is it. And if he ages very quickly, I won't blame them. They got him at below, you can't say below market rate, because I guess the market is being set on these guys right now. They swooped in perfectly and got him for the right number of years, as cheap as you could expect to get him. If Bautista signs for as much as they're talking about, then, Encarnacion is like a steal. I would much rather have him than Bautista.
Yeah.
So it's a nice thing, and I'm just really, really hoping that they're going to find a way to extend Lindor, because I feel like he's on the verge of a breakout. As far as power goes, he's going to fill out, and he starts homering. Then you're looking at a absolute premium contract, and if they're going to buy out any years from him now, pre-free agency, they have to do it now.
Well, and I don't remember if it was somebody from Waiting for Next Year or somebody else on Twitter, or maybe even a commenter, but somebody had said that there's no reason that Francisco Lindor should ever play a single inning with another baseball team. Like,
I agree.
There's just no reason. And knowing what we know now, and knowing that nobody would ever blame you, even if you Grady Sizemore's,
right? Right. No, you have to. You have to. The way he played in on the biggest stage, the way he just played better and better, and I just see this kid filling out and starting to hit for power, and at that point, I'm just worried that they're never going to be able to sign him.
All right, so he's under team control through 17 and 18. So they've got all of this year and early. They've got all this year to buy out the last year of his deal. No, they could buy out any time over his 3 arbitration years. They can buy out. They can buy out his arbitration years in 19, 20, and 21. But over the next 2 years, I want to see them
because the longer you wait, the less your chances become.
If they get him on a 3-year extension past his arbitration years, they'll take him to age 30, which would be incredible. I'd like to see even longer.
That would probably be like, what, mid-prime?
Yeah. If they could take him to 33 or 34 with an option. I'm getting greedy now. I don't even understand how baseball contracts work, but I'm just going, well, I want to watch Frankie play till he's 32 or 33 at least.
Right. And it would be a killer to see him as a veteran playing for somebody else. If he signs elsewhere, I hope it's the National League.
Well, no, it's Victor all over again, because he's got. I don't want to paint him as Victor, but he's got that same kind of electrifying energy. It looks infectious.
I think he's Victor times 3. I'm sorry, I liked Victor. I think
no, he might be. He might be.
I mean, this kid is a star. This kid is going to be an MVP candidate.
But I just
beginning
mean
this year.
Rarely have we ever seen baseball players in Cleveland who seem to make everybody around them better and lighter, and
right.
He seems to make everybody better and lighter.
Right.
You know, Kipnis is great. He's good. He's a leader. He doesn't make everybody better.
Does Lindor annoy you at all?
No, not at all.
You don't.
I even like how he's buddy-buddy with all his, fellow Hispanic players.
There's something. I know.
Love it.
I'm being petty as a person, but I see him like looking for like where the dugout camera is and positioning himself. He likes the camera, man. He likes the camera. And
he reminds me of one of my kids, like a ham, just a toddler ham.
So maybe that same hamness makes him good under pressure. I don't know. He likes the spotlight.
There's no moment that's too big for Frankie.
Right.
Which is what I love.
Right. So. Sign him.
Lock him up forever.
Lock him up
forever.
Lock him up.
Ever and ever. But no, the Encarnacion thing. I mean, I hope that I don't look back on this conversation and go, ooh, wish I hadn't committed that to audio. But it's hard.
We're judging it right now.
Yeah.
We're judging it before his first spring training, and I mean, I will never fault them for that. I mean, there's things that sports teams do. Browns traded up, I think, to get Lawyer Tillman, who was he got injured right away. He would have been dominating. You don't know that. At the time, it was exactly the right
I
move.
never blamed the Browns for Courtney Brown.
Absolutely
not once.
Right. When he was healthy at the very start.
I did blame them for Gerard Warren.
Yes. Yes. There's a lot of things to blame the Browns for.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We could go, start with the Junkins and, go all the way through.
And I do want to finish with the Browns because I can't help myself with the Browns. I know we talked a little bit about them with David Modell, but I do want to talk about them a little bit kind of on a going forward basis, especially with, the draft coming up, and they did earn the number 1 pick. But first, we're going to talk about, hopefully, maybe, or you're just going to say I don't care, the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. I personally don't care, but Manny Ramirez didn't get anywhere near enough votes. He got 24%, and obviously that's because of PEDs or whatever, and the era that he played in, and I think he got a fertility drug, like a women's pregnancy drug.
Yeah, it was a mistake. It was an innocent mistake.
Yeah, they were trying to get
Chris Perez's dog, or
they were trying to get pregnant.
Right. And he wasn't the smartest tool in the shed. He thought whatever.
Oh, yeah, no, but if there's a baseball Hall of Fame, it has to include somebody like Manny Ramirez. Even as much as I hated him as a Red Sox. Hated.
Well, how do you feel about Pete Rose?
I grew up where Pete Rose arguments were already kind of happening, and I never saw him play. My earliest memories are getting his baseball card when he was a manager. So I vaguely remember the controversy.
The concept being he has more hits than anybody.
Yeah, I put him in.
He was a selfish hitting machine. He would the kind of guy that would calculate his batting average on his way to first base. I mean, that's what he cared about, and that's what he was obsessed about, and that's what he did over a period of 2 decades. And he broke a rule that everybody knew about, that it's written in every locker room, and he's out of baseball now. I mean, were performance-enhancing drugs that Manny took illegal at the time or banned by the major leagues at the time? I think they were.
Yep.
So I don't know, man. It's the Hall of Fame. It's a personal thing. I don't take personal ownership of those or all-star teams. What makes me crazy is when fans talk about all-star teams.
Yeah.
How could you let the fans vote for all-stars? Well, because it's for the fans. It's not about the players. Oh, but the players have crap in their contracts, incentives and stuff like that. Well, don't put it in your contract. The fans are. I mean, I don't care. I just want my team to win. So I'm sorry. I don't.
Well, and certainly like an NBA All-Star game where they vote in Kobe in his last year, no matter what. That makes a lot of sense. But and now finally, I guess the baseball All-Star game won't mean anything.
Right,
which is good.
That's good. Generally, I don't have any sympathy for people who don't get in the. I honestly, I don't.
But I'm not going to go to Cooperstown anyway.
Have you ever been?
No.
I was there once. It's kind of like the Rock and Roll Museum, the Hall of Fame.
Well, I love that, but
I think you go there once.
But I don't expect anybody else I know to love the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame the way I do.
Well, I mean,
it's very specific to the person.
Here, because you're a rock and roll guy. But
my wife, she plays along, but if she never went again, she'd be like, I've been there.
Yeah.
I think.
That's how I feel. I could only look at so many handwritten lyric sheets, so many costumes,
yep.
And the Baseball Hall of Fame is like that. I saw this guy's glove. That's very cool. I saw this guy's locker. That's very cool. How many baseballs do I have to look at before I've had it? There's a video great because I've looked at as many baseballs as I can look at.
You're right, man. Because I think the Hall of Fame exists on YouTube now. Mm-hmm. You know, a couple weeks ago, whatever. One of our friends. You know, I live here in town, but one of our friends is from the New York area. He's a Jets fan. Uh-huh. And we got to talking about how when I was in college, my roommate was a Jets fan. And you get to talking about Cleveland sports history. You talk about the Drive. He'd be like, you know what? F the Drive. Do you know what the Browns did to the Jets the week before the Drive? Like, nobody remembers. All anybody ever talks about is the Drive. You broke the Jets' heart and all this other stuff. So we loaded up YouTube a couple weeks ago, hanging out with some friends. And one of the guys there, different, not my roommate from college, but a different guy. He's a Jets fan. We break out the '86 playoff game between the Browns and the Jets before the Drive.
That might have been the best Browns game I have ever seen,
and the worst Jets game that any Jets fan has ever seen.
Absolutely,
and
the best radio call I've ever heard. Nev Chandler called the long touchdown to Brian Brennan in the air, and he said, Brennan turns one way, then the other, while the ball was in the air. And I still listen to that, and I think, how do you say that? Sometimes this is the middle of the ball is in the air, and he says, Brennan, blah, 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 turns one way, then the other, makes it falls. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
Well, and you would think, like, all right, well, maybe he watched it, and then he's almost like the human delay. But you hear the crowd. He's not.
No,
he's live.
Mad skills, that guy.
Which is incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that's God-given. It's repetition, it's practice, but it's God-given ability.
Yeah, no doubt. I missed that guy. That was just a great announcer. He was great.
So anyway, I don't even remember how we got to the '86
Jets something Hall of Fame. Whatever.
Oh yeah, the Hall of Fame exists on YouTube.
When you say that, what do you mean?
I don't have to go to Canton. I load up YouTube. I got all the memories I need. I could tell my son about it. We could watch Brian Brennan. You know, why would I sit around and look at his jersey?
So
I could watch what he did.
Hall of Fames are dead. Nobody really.
They're going to be.
I see dead museums.
I'm selling short on museums. Okay.
Browns. Can we talk Browns before we
Yes, we need to, especially with the draft coming up. And I'm going to lead this way.
All right.
And say that I think this might be a doomed quarterback year for the Browns. I don't like the game theory of the draft, presuming that Myles Garrett is the number one pick. I don't see a way for the Browns to get anything like they could do better than Cody Kessler, but it's going to be a Cody Kessler-sized bet on quarterback if they make one.
They can't try to fabricate a player. They have to evaluate the players. And if they grab a quarterback in the second or third round and he blossoms unexpectedly, which is what happens to good teams, then because they have the right coaching, they have the right atmosphere, and it's in that guy, it's in the draftee, then it'll happen. They can't fabricate because of need. Good teams don't do that. That's not a formula. It's not a formula. They are so thin everywhere. They don't have that luxury. They have to they could take the best player almost anywhere. And if it's Myles Garrett, I mean, I am a bad evaluator of college talent. But when I see the little film on this guy, I mean, he looks like the whole package to me. I mean, I won't blame them if they take him. I hope they end up with a good safety or a good corner. I mean, I love the kid from Ohio State, Malik Hooker.
How could you not?
I mean, I could see that. That looks like a plug-and-play guy to me.
It's funny because I think people used to overrate Ohio State players all the time, but since Urban Meyer showed up, you can't overrate an Ohio State player enough.
Right.
Like, they're always worthy of being drafted at this point.
Right, because that's what it is. It's a factory for the NFL.
He's got the very best draft classes, recruiting classes.
Right.
I mean, he and Alabama are 1 and 2 every year.
I'm wondering if his players are actually doing better than the Alabama players in the pros at this point. Be interesting.
It's possible. I don't know.
It would be interesting to see.
Well, and we're kind of scarred by Trent Richardson, so
right. All sports talk here is personal and local.
Exactly. Everything. All Alabama draft picks suck because Trent Richardson sucked.
Right. He wears them out.
But you know what? Trent Richardson wasn't supposed to suck. It was in his head. It was off the field.
But he wasn't supposed to be taken so high in the draft.
Well, but
good teams were already avoiding taking running backs at the top of the draft. They were operating under a Mike Holmgren 90s sensibility at that point.
But he still wasn't supposed to suck. It was off the field. It was in his head. It was not stuff that they could have seen at the combine. It was stuff that they maybe.
Why do you say it? I mean, maybe that's true, but why do you say it's true?
Well, all the articles that have come out in the last year, especially when he was trying to make his comeback with the Ravens, was talking about all the hangers-on, all the people coming out of the woodwork, kind of how he failed miserably adjusting to not having the structure of the college program and people telling him where to be at all times. And he had all these people begging for money every which way. He had 15 people living with him in his house, family members and cousins and everything else. It was like a whole...
what does that do? Does that keep you from working out? Does that keep you from hitting the hole hard and
being
able to...
all of it.
It keeps you from being able to see where the hole is? I mean...
It was all mental and physical because of off the field stuff. I can't guarantee that, right. But based on all the articles that I've read, I mean, you have to think.
All right, so you're not blaming the Browns for that?
No,
it's
the only thing I'm blaming the Browns for is falling victim to the game theory and trading up, giving anything up to trade up, and not calling a bluff.
The only thing worse than trading up is trading down.
Well, yeah, no, but the only thing. Trading down's okay. You have to pick players. And the two most famous times the Browns have traded down, they end up with Phil Taylor, who's practically out of the league, and Brandon Weeden. And right. They also get they trade out of Mark Sanchez, which is brilliant, but then they waste the entire second round with Rubisky, Vekune, and Massaquoi.
Yeah.
I mean,
the key is
there were second rounders that would have made that trade down look perfect.
Right. So the key is it doesn't matter how you move, where you move, you have to eventually forget about the value of certain draft slots. Yes. You have to be able to evaluate players competently. That's what every good team does. Regardless, you don't have to draft number one. It doesn't matter if you draft number one or number two. That's why it's making me nuts that people are saying, "Oh my God, they almost lost the number one pick." If you can't find a cornerstone of your franchise at number two, you're not going anyplace anywhere.
Lost.
You're not going to start winning anytime. No. If you can't find that guy at number two in the first round, and number two in the second round, and number two in the third, if you can't start plying your team with really excellent quality, it doesn't matter where you're slotting. It doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't. It matters if you're number one or number 32, like in terms of value.
Yes, but this is not
philosophically.
This is not the NBA. This is not the NBA.
It's not.
You get Hall of Famers in the middle from slot number overall 8, from 12, sometimes in the second round, occasionally from the third round. That doesn't really happen in the NBA. You kind of know who's going to be the Hall of Famers.
And even when the NFL draft hands you the number one pick on a platter, like Andrew Luck, we've seen how mismanagement and poor coaching can squander and maybe even potentially ruin a guy. We saw it with Tim Couch. Was Tim Couch a bad pick? No, not in your life he wasn't.
will always maintain that I don't know that he would have been great,
No.
but he had a lot of stuff going for him. He had a lot of moxie. He had a lot of intangibles. He was a winner. Now,
He had a big arm.
He had a big arm.
He had a good brain.
He had a lot of guts.
Yes.
He had that slow release that was going to affect him, but he might have overcome that, but he got the snot beat out of him constantly.
Who knows how many concussions that dude had?
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest.
Right.
And
by the way, same with Bernie.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Bernie would get clobbered in the head all the time. All these guys did.
Yeah.
I mean, Favre did. All these guys did.
Yeah.
I can't watch football the same way. I mean, I'm since all this stuff, the CTE stuff came out, it's really hard for me to watch these games without thinking to myself, just get that kid out of there. Just get him out. And why are you playing this game anyways?
Yeah.
And why am I watching this game anyways?
I hope I'm not recycling too much material for people, but I've had a real difficult time philosophically going to high school games because I think really hard about whether I'd let my boys play. And here we are, we're watching other kids,
I don't, it's probably not scientifically accurate, but I don't think about high school that much because I just assume that they don't run as fast, they're not as big, and they don't hit that hard, but maybe it doesn't matter.
Generally, no, but there is still enough of that warrior culture, especially in places like Ohio and Texas and certain other parts of the country, where I read a really awful story about a kid who played his last high school game in 2009, and horrible CT. He was known as a giant hitter, and he's one of these guys who ended up shooting himself in the chest. Wow. In 2015. So we're talking about a kid who was 18 in 2009, and 2015, so 6 years later, he's 24, 25. Wow. And that's the exception. There are thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of kids playing high school football across the nation. I don't know. And that's the exception, not the rule.
You have to wonder how many kids, beginning maybe last year, are no longer being allowed to play football in high school and where they're going. I mean, are they all trying out for the basketball team? Are they
soccer?
I mean, but soccer takes certain skills, I'm assuming, that it's not necessarily translatable.
Yeah.
There are guys that are big bruising guys that aren't going to, they're offensive linemen. They're not going to play soccer, and they're not going to be fast enough to play lacrosse. And
But lacrosse is the fastest growing game.
It's a great game. That's the first time I saw it.
I don't even know how to play.
The first time I saw a high school game, I thought, oh, man, this is not – I mean, we used to joke when I was in high school back in the 1920s. We used to joke about that, like
who plays lacrosse?
Lacrosse. What do you even – when I saw my first high school lacrosse game, I thought, man, I wish I would have played that. That's like a beautiful – I mean, it's great.
Yeah.
Great game. It's fabulous.
So – anyway, I didn't mean to end it on a down note with the CTE and the high school kid shooting himself in the chest, but it's a story that if you can find it on GQ, it's well worth reading. But I mean, we're going to have a lot of these moments, and I'm, even beyond the concussions and all that stuff, I found myself like I got emotional a little bit, and so I found myself accidentally trolling a Steelers fan on Facebook who I'm friends with because, I made some comment about how miserable the Browns were this year, and they said something about, whoa, boo-hoo, the Browns are always awful. And I was like, well, you can thank the Rooney family for hooking us up with the former minority owner of the Steelers who was, vetted and pushed through and implanted here to ruin the team after the league let the Modells move it out of our city and, on the heels of San Diego moving and all this other stuff that's going on. I think I might just hate the NFL now. I think I might just hate the NFL. And it's real. But if the Browns get good, I'll get over it.
Did you see the Green Bay
Dallas game?
That was one of the best games I've ever seen.
It was unbelievable.
I don't usually get emotionally involved in somebody else's.
No.
But I was riveted to that.
Well, I'd resigned myself to watching Ezekiel Elliott. I thought that was just going to be fun. But that game turned out to be one of the most classic games in the history of NFL playoffs.
And it was beautiful. And that game made me think to myself, all right, the NFL is not done. Because when you have quarterbacks like that, when you have guys making plays like that, play after play in the last few minutes, it was just exhilarating. It was beautiful. I was hoping that Green Bay would win just simply because I want to watch Aaron Rodgers.
But when the Browns are bad, I'm so miserable. I just kind of hate the league. I mean,
yeah,
Patriots fans hate Roger Goodell for their own reasons. I hate him for my own because he's representative of this wart that was implanted in Cleveland.
See, owner. I have a disconnect. I watch the Browns and then I watch good football teams, and it's like I'm watching a different sport.
You are.
It's like, oh, that's how you make plays. That's how an offense works.
But if you don't feel like it's possible for the Browns to be able to connect those dots.
So you're blaming the NFL for Jimmy Haslam?
I blame the NFL for everything. Like now that I'm a little bit older and I've got a little bit of distance, I blame them for allowing Modell to move the team. A guy who was a business failure, and such a business failure that he couldn't even hold on to the damn thing once he moved it. I blame them for rubber stamping Jimmy Haslam and then him getting indicted. If Adam Silver was the commissioner of the NFL, he would have had the league oust Jimmy Haslam. He would have bought the team and he would have found a new owner.
Adam Silver's a good commissioner, isn't he?
I mean, let's be honest. Don't you? Would you? Neither one of us can say that's what would happen because the NFL owner group is different than the NBA owner group. But if I say that about Adam Silver, you can't tell me I'm wrong.
I can't tell you you're wrong. I mean,
and would anybody be worse off if they'd done that? If they'd said, "Hey, Jimmy,"
did they properly vet Haslam?
No.
I mean,
couldn't have.
I don't know. I don't know who knew what when. I didn't know what
they didn't properly vet the Ray Rice videotape. Why would we think they vet?
Yeah, that was that was such a joke.
So why would you think
pinky to the wind, and then we better like more penalty because everyone's really upset. Did they set Haslam up with Banner? And if so, why?
Yeah.
Why Banner? Banner? I mean that was a joke. So it seemed to me that they like put those two together. You get an established football guy, then we'll let you have it, and it's going to be Banner.
But I take that stuff personally now. I just think that the NFL did that to me. And my thousands of dollars.
I've thought that myself.
My thousands of dollars in tickets.
I thought that they had Craig Lindell in mind. They thought, you know what? Those are nice people in Cleveland, but not that guy.
They didn't have that in mind, but it's personally injurious. They did it to me.
Every day you wake up.
Like us. I just that's why I didn't want to go to the parade, if they were going to have a perfect season 0-win parade. But you know what? Absolutely, have it. Go for it. Do whatever you feel like. You've earned it.
I thought it was hilarious.
I thought it was too.
I was not among those who were like, "Are you kidding me? Don't you?" I mean, I thought it was really funny.
But I get not wanting to go. But I don't understand why you would ever try and stop fellow fans from like really sticking it, and owning that kind of misery. Because
right.
What else are we supposed to do? This has nothing to do with us.
Right.
We have nothing to do with Tennessee, Pilot Flying J, Randy Lerner. We have nothing to do with any of it.
Right. What does Jimmy Haslam have to do with Cleveland?
Not a damn thing.
Right. He wasn't Al Lerner. He didn't have any. Wait, did Al Lerner even? I mean, he was minority owner of the old Browns, but he wasn't from Cleveland either, was he?
Even Modell had something to do with this city. I mean, he had been here.
Well, but he wasn't here when he bought the Browns. I think he was a New York guy, and he came here to buy the Browns.
He just came here to buy the Browns?
I think so. I could be wrong.
Either way, I despise Art Modell as much as anybody, but he implanted himself into this town, much like Dan Gilbert has.
Absolutely. And last thing I'll say, his ownership makes Haslam's ownership. I mean, Modell was relatively competent,
except the way it ended.
Yeah. Just look. Can we just keep away from that?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the coaches he found.
Yeah.
I mean, he hired Rutigliano. He hired Belichick. He hired Schottenheimer. I mean,
and all the TV stuff he did was phenomenal for the league.
I don't know
if he hadn't had that big pock on his thing, we'd all be talking about his Hall of Fame status.
How he was able to lose money in his situation is beyond me. with revenue sharing and everything that
should have been impossible.
There must have been something going on, and
we'll never know.
We'll never know.
We'll never know. And that's the perfect way to end the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.
We'll never know.
Yeah. Before I go, I'm gonna knock out a little Patreon ad here at the end, because that's something that we've been doing that's really going to push the site forward. It's been really successful so far. We got 50 people signed up at this point, and you too can join up. You can get some extras. It doesn't cost you anything to access Waiting for Next Year. It's all bonus. It's all extra access and extra stuff. patreon.com/WFNY. patreon.com/WFNY. That's it for us. This week. I think I'm out. Thanks so much, Harv.
Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure as always. It's
good to meet you in person.
Absolutely.
And until next time, everybody, thanks for listening. It's been the waitingfornextyear.com podcast.